We could have voluntarily decided that, look, we're gonna go into back rooms like they used to and smoke cigars and pick the candidate that way. Bruce Spiva, lawyer for the DNC. Bernie delegates were not treated well by the DNC.
In 2016, the DNC purged 64 delegates in Nevada to give Hillary Clinton the win. This was after the vote by voice where they had a shouting contest to pass a motion. This is around the same time that Barbara Boxer decided to flip off Bernie supporters.
The evidence is very clear with a hand outline, possible keys, and the knuckles.
An attorney in Las Vegas. I run a solo practice so that I can sort of choose my fights. I got into the Bernie campaign. I originally wasn't intending to get involved in the campaign, but money in politics has always been a personal crusade of mine.
All right, let's talk about why in the 1990s Wall Street got deregulated. Did it have anything to do with the fact that Wall Street spent billions of dollars on lobbying and campaign contributions? Well, some people might think, yeah, that had some influence. Let's ask why it is that we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and your medicine can be doubled tomorrow, and there's nothing that the government can do to stop it. You think it has anything to do with the huge amounts of campaign contributions and lobbying from the fossil fuel industry? Let's talk about climate change. Do you think there is a reason why not one Republican has the guts to recognize that climate change is real and that we need to transform our energy system? Do you think it has anything to do with the Koch brothers and ExxonMobil pouring huge amounts of money into the political system? That is what goes on in America. There is a reason why these people are putting huge amounts of money into our political system. And in my view, it is undermining American democracy, and it is allowing Congress to represent wealthy campaign contributors and not the working families of this country.
When I saw that Bernie seemed to be somebody who was really legitimately fighting for that really got me interested in jumping in and seeing if we could make that our next president.
Do you believe that the process was rigged?
Yes. People violated the laws. People violated the rules.
Well, it's a big election. And, there's been a lot of activity here. So I just wanted to be here on election day.
And people cheated in ways that we necessarily haven't thought of making laws against yet.
If you go to the polls on election day and say, I'm an independent and I want to vote in the Democratic primary, you are automatically given a ballot without the presidential race. And even if you then say, how do I vote in the Democratic primary? The poll workers are instructed to respond, independent or non-party voters can't get Democratic ballots. So the only way to get to vote in the presidential primary is if you say the secret code words, I want a Democratic crossover ballot. Yeah, you have to say the words crossover ballot, or the poll worker will never admit the existence of the correct ballot.
And took advantage of the fact that the party nomination process is largely handled outside of government control. What I do believe absolutely is that given a fair contest, Bernie Sanders absolutely would have won. It wasn't just unfair, it was intended to be. The background here is that at the Nevada State Convention, Hillary Clinton technically won by 32 delegates. Yet it came out later that there were 64 Bernie Sanders delegates that were disqualified without hearing or the regular process. We have credentials committees, and for some reason they had decided to separate that based on each candidate. On the night before, late at night, the night before the convention, the Clinton campaign presented a very long list of Sanders delegates that they said they had objections to. People who had their credentials for the county conventions, They had appeared, they had been fine there, but they came through and they said, well, we have objections. The objections were things like, oh, well, the address listed there doesn't match the address on the voter registration, or, you know, we have the wrong birth date, or things like that, where it wasn't something necessarily problematic, just a discrepancy that they said, well, this is a problem.
It's your voice, your vote in the race for the White House. Hundreds of Bernie Sanders supporters held a protest today outside the Bellagio. They're upset over the way last night's Nevada State Democratic Convention ended. Organizers say they had to end the event after it went several hours longer than anticipated and security became an issue.
Explaining what happened is not exactly easy. You see, the way we Americans pick a president is each party has a primary in every single state. That process lasts roughly 17 years. Nevada held their primary back in February, but it wasn't actually a primary, it was a caucus, because there's not a primary in every single state. A caucus is like a primary, except there's a lot of screaming and running around, and it's not at all like a primary. Hillary won that caucus, but that doesn't really matter because there's something called delegates, which are designed to make sure the caucus doesn't matter. The delegates then get together at the delegate convention, which they did this past weekend, where nearly 64 Sanders delegates were excluded from the convention process. That was done by state party chair and Hillary Clinton foot masseuse, Roberta Lang. Now, the rules say she can't do that, but the rules don't really matter because they changed the rules. When they went to pass the rule change, there was an uproar from the delegates. I mean, people were furious. They were screaming, they were furious. But luckily, Hillary Clinton's superdelegate, Senator Barbara Boxer, was there to calm everything down.
I bring a message from Bernie Sanders, and I bring a message from Hillary Clinton. When you boo me, you're booing Bernie Sanders. Go ahead. You're booing Bernie Sanders. You're booing Bernie. You're booing Bernie.
No, I think they're booing you. Well, since that's not working, let's go to the Hillary Clinton School of Politics and change our position completely.
You're booing Bernie. Let's hear it for Hillary Clinton. We have the vote. We have the voice. We have victory. Yay!
Crowd Control 101. If at first they f***ing hate you, poke them in the eye. Later, Roberta Lang went to close the convention by a voice vote, which means the people have to say yes. Here's the response. So, I'll take that as a no? I haven't heard that many nays since I watched that horse try to rebuff the sexual advances of our neighborhood zoophiliac. Nay means nay, Roberta. What the f*** was that? Roberta Lang was never seen again. There was a Roberta Lang-shaped hole in the wall of the convention center, and Barbara Boxer put a lampshade over her head and pretended to be scenery until everyone had left, which required state troopers coming in and literally shutting off the lights. Literally. It's like Thomas Jefferson said, if democracy doesn't work in your favor, send in guys with guns and turn out the lights. Well, Jesus, obviously, if Clinton's people are willing to go sprinting out of there after a fraudulent vote, they must have stolen like 1 billion delegates. 2 delegates? That was for 2 delegates? I mean, Hillary has at least 5 delegates duct taped in her linen closet. You know, just as sparesies.